Welcome to the Empowered Money Girl, where we break down the barriers to financial confidence, celebrate women's wins, and reveal the secrets to living boldly and well. I'm your host, Josette Mandela. I have a question for you. What happens when a born connector with a love for storytelling decides to rewrite the rules of book publicity? Marika Flatt is here to show us how it's done. She's the founder of PR by the Book, a powerhouse literary PR firm she launched in 2002 after her early smiling and dialing days as a young publicist. With more than 2 decades of experience, she's helped countless authors bring their stories to life, combining media savvy, creativity, and integrity every step of the way. Beyond running a thriving business, Marika is deeply involved in her community. She served as president of Women Communicators of Austin, on the Texas Book Festival's Kids Committee, and on the board of the San Diego Writers Festival. And if she looks familiar, it's because you've probably seen her sharing insights as the travel editor for Texas Lifestyle Magazine and a regular guest on Texas television. If you're ready to learn how connection, credibility, and a little can-do spirit can turn passion into purpose, you will love this conversation. Please welcome the inspiring, grounded, and joyfully determined Marika Flatt.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful intro. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. And so, Marika, can you take us back to the beginning? What was your path like to where you are today?
Wow. Okay. So I actually started dabbling in TV at the early age of 18. I got the opportunity to host a cable network show out of San Antonio called The Teen Report. And that led me to their program, The College Report, which I did throughout my 4 years at university. And once I had done about 4 to 5 internships and was about to graduate, I really started thinking that the TV life might not be for me, and I might be more interested on the PR side. And so I did, at the advice of a mentor who was the executive producer of that first show, join Women Communicators of Austin, and just immediately was connected with the perfect job at a very small literary publicity company, and stayed with them for 7 years and really grew. It was kind of a sink or swim situation. We were so small that you had to do everything and you had to learn really quickly. And that's kind of my style. I mean, I like to stay busy. I like to cross train. I like to know how to do different things. And it was just a real blessing for me because I got to learn so much in that first phase of my career. And I knew when it was time to launch my own company. I felt it in my heart, and started PR by the Book with my husband, who was able to, when I said, "Oh, I just want to go off and freelance," and he said, "No, we're going to set it up as a business," and that was 23 years ago. And so he handled the heavy lifting of setting it up behind the scenes. And then I always have said that I've gotten to do the fun part of the publicity and leading our team. And so I've just, really enjoyed being a part of the literary publicity community. Like I said, for total, all total, a little over 28 years, but PR by the Book has just celebrated 23 years. So, yeah, it's a long and winding path, but it's still the same path.
Well, congratulations on 23 years. That's great for a small business to
Thank
survive
you.
that long.
Thank you. Yes, yes. And certainly ups and downs and lots of challenges running a small business. And, um, it keeps you on your toes for sure.
And certainly that early training running that working in that small company, you must have learned a lot of different jobs as well, because like you
Hmm.
said, when you're in a small company,
Hmm.
it's not like having a much larger company where there's all these different departments that handle different things. When you're in a small
Right.
company, it's you.
Yes. Yes, it is. And, I think one of the beautiful things about being an entrepreneur is that you have to understand at what point you have to bring others on to surround you. What is that tipping point for a role? For instance, um, when do you need an office manager? When do you need to, bring that role on? When do you need assistance on business development? When do you need to pull, in my case, when do you need to pull out of running any publicity campaigns and have campaign managers doing that? And so obviously, over 2 decades is quite a few years to be figuring that out and adding on. But we did that in a very in a very smart way in terms of evolving new positions within the company and keeping those positions stable, and having a fairly good track record of retention for great team members. And so it takes a village. You have to learn. Okay, Josette, I remember many years ago, we were working with a business coach, and I want to say this was probably around 15 years ago. And I was doing all of the business development, soup to nuts, everything. I didn't want to have anybody helping me with it because I felt so, I was being a little bit of a control freak about it, I guess. I thought, well, this is our bread and butter, and nobody's going to do it as well as I can. So I must do it all. And, I remember him saying, he gave me a picture of a military guy with a huge backpack on his back. And he said, I want you to put this by your computer. And every time you think about not wanting to have any assistance in business development, I want you to look at this picture and I want you to think about the heaviness of this backpack that you're carrying up a hill every day and that you won't let anybody help you with it. And it was a visual for me that really changed my mentality on letting other people in the company help with this important role. And I am still involved. It is a big part of my job, but I do have more than one person on our team that helps me with the business development now. And so it's things like that where you just have to get to the point where you realize, I need to have somebody alongside me doing this role, because there was a point in time where I was really doing three full-time jobs within PR by the book. And and guess what? That means that there is absolutely no way for you to get that done in 40 hours a week or even 50 usually. So yeah, I've had to really, and I am still a workaholic. I will say that is true. I work on it all the time and have to tell myself sometimes on the weekends that it's okay not to be behind the computer. There's times where I'm still behind my computer at 6 or 7 o'clock, and I have to say, self, it's time to close the computer and do something else. And so I'm a work in progress on that for sure. But I also have become much more self-aware in the last, 5+ years. And so I see where those challenges are and I work on them.
And I think that's such a great insight to first recognize, hey, maybe I need a coach, and going and finding someone that can kind of look at the big picture and
Hmm.
suggest different things that,
Hmm.
hey, maybe this isn't really where you should be spending all your time.
Mm.
Let's look at this a different way.
Hmm.
Is
Oh,
what things can you get off your plate?
yes. Yes. One of my first authors that I worked with many, many years ago when I was a baby book publicist, he was an advertising guru. His name was Roy Williams, and he wrote a book called The Wizard of Ads, and it was a best-selling book. And one of the quotes that I still think of to this day that he said is, "You can't read the label from inside the bottle." And I love that quote because this is why people need a business coach. And so that one that we were working with, let's say 15 years ago, we had wrapped that up. And I don't know how many years ago that was, but then we ended up working with Action Coach starting at the end of 2021. And we still, so 4 years later, have a coach and have just really grown leaps and bounds in the last 4 years. And we couldn't have done it ourselves. I say, oh, wow, well, we got ourselves to just about 20 years alone, basically. And then you just get to that point where we had done all that we knew to do, just my
Mhm.
husband and I running the company together. And then you bring on someone who is looking at the label from outside the bottle and can say, well, what about this? Are you doing that? Are you being thorough with this? Are you building these systems? Are you staying true to these systems? Are you being innovative? All of those things. And so it's been a financial investment for sure. Talk about money. It has been some money that we have put into Action Coach, but it's been worth it, and we've grown leaps and bounds through that process.
Yeah, and like you say, and when you're hiring a coach, it's really an investment in yourself
Hmm.
and your business
Hmm.
to make sure that you can get to that next level, that you know a certain amount, and then when you hit the wall, let's call it, it's time to say, oh, wait, I need to find another skill set. And in order to improve my skill set at a quicker pace,
Hmm.
that's what a coach can
Yeah.
do for you.
Yes. And also, I think that one really valuable thing of working with the coach has been goal setting. I mean, it's simple. It's just that we weren't really doing it to the degree that we could until we started working with our action coach. And then we were actually looking at, and I used to think it was kind of fluffy, like, well, I want to live in the moment. I want to, just do what I'm doing right now. And so I thought, not so useful. Well, I was wrong. And just something simple like a vision board. You know, I have now created three different vision boards in the past 4 years. And the one that's hanging on my bulletin board next to me right here, I have 4 out of 6 of the quadrants checked off. And so, it matters. I mean, we whether we like it or not, we are paying attention to things that are in front of us visually, and it helps keep those neural pathways going of like, okay, where do I want to be with this? Where do I want to be living in 5 years? What do I want my weekly work schedule to look like? What do I want my salary to look like? Those types of things. I'm not necessarily talking about like, oh, I want to drive a sports car or it's not for me, it's not things like that, but it might be for another entrepreneur. And, so we all have um our own sights that we set, and I think that we're missing an opportunity if we're not doing that goal setting.
Agreed. Having goals is definitely important. So, speaking of the financial side, how would you define financial independence, and how do you
Mm,
know if you've actually gotten there?
mm. That's a great question. And it's one that is so individualistic, right? Because what what might feel like independence to me might not be the same for even my husband, who's my business partner, or my best friend. And so for me, it really and honestly, Josette, I've felt this way ever since I became an adult that I don't need to be stacking up, millions of dollars in the bank. What I want and what financial independence means for me is that I have enough money coming in that I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about what does next month look like, or if I'm not hitting my revenue goals for PR by the book this month, do I have to lay somebody off? Things like that, where for me it's peace of mind, and that brings independence of I don't have to stress out about how we're paying our bills or how we're taking care of other employees. It's kind of funny. I am a mom. I have three kids, and they're grown. And so they're not little anymore. But I also have felt that way a little bit as a business owner, that kind of like the mama bird. Like I've got a bunch of baby birds in the nest that I need to feed. And so that's how I've always envisioned my responsibility as a business owner, is that we employ people that we care about, and those are those are the baby birds that have to be fed. And so my role as business development lead, I take that seriously. Yes, I need to, do my job well so that I can take care of our employees that are depending on us, because they're doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes. They're taking good care of our clients. They're booking the media day in and day out. That's a hard job. It's not easy at all. They need to be creative and do their job well, and create their own connections with media outlets. And so they work hard, and I need to work hard for them.
Oh, and I love that the financial independence isn't necessarily a dollar amount, that
Mm-hmm.
it's peace of mind. And
Mm-hmm.
I I agree wholeheartedly. My goal in life is to get to a place where I work because I want to, not
Hmm.
because I have to. And
Yes.
that, like you say, that's such a great place to be.
Hmm. It is. And our other business that we started 14 years ago, which is Texas Lifestyle Magazine, I had a hobby early in my career of travel writing, and it was just a hobby. It kept me connected to my journalism roots. And 14 years ago, we had the opportunity to take over a local magazine that I had the vision to expand statewide, and pulled my husband along with me. And and that's been a passion project for us. We do that work because we love it. And we get to have some amazing experiences. It's not work that we do to pay bills, it's work that we do to feed our soul. And so when you say that you wanted to get to the place where you could work because you're loving it, that's a real example of doing work that I love, because it does feed my soul. It is a passion, it's a hobby. It allows me to not only stay connected to my journalism roots, but also, as you mentioned in my intro, I get to stay connected to my TV roots as well now. So um, yeah, and with PR by the book, I still love what I do. So, yes, I look forward to the time where I can keep that to 40 hours a week. But I'm still enjoying what I'm doing, and it is exciting to look down the road for the next 10 years and think, I want to continue doing this at the degree that feels comfortable, and that I'm doing it because I enjoy it.
Yeah, and I love that. And a quote that I'd recently heard is that entrepreneurs are people that gave up in a lot of cases, that gave up a 40-hour a week job working for somebody else because they hated the idea of working for somebody else, to work 120 hours on their own.
Yes. Hmm. Yes, that is true. One of the other benefits of the coaching program that we're in is that Not so much now because we're more in on an individual track with our coaching, but before we were in a group setting. And one of the benefits was to share those stories with other entrepreneurs that you're getting to know and to hear, oh yeah, this guy over here, he's also doing three jobs. And, he's trying to figure out when to hire on maybe a support staff or maybe somebody to do sales or maybe somebody to and it could be even vendors. When do you hire on vendors? When do you hire bring on that accountant, that CPA,
Mhm.
that attorney that you might need? So vendors are important too, somebody to handle all the IT. So things of that sort, yeah, again, it costs money, it's an investment, but in order to grow, you have to get to that point where you're comfortable as an entrepreneur of, okay, I'm going to make that investment because paying that person to do it allows me to either, one, free up the time that I need to not work that extra 10 or 15 hours a week. Or number two, I can spend my time doing what I'm even better at. So
Mhm.
I don't want to spend my time writing website copy. I don't want to spend my time doing finances. Now, granted, my husband handles that part of our business, thank goodness. Um, but if I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm hiring somebody who is very good at that job and that's their expertise, then I can spend those hours doing what I need to do for PR by the book. And that time is better spent doing what I do best.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And like you say, is that as your business is growing, you hire on the people to do the jobs that either you don't necessarily like to do or are very
Mhm,
good at, because what
mhm,
that does is you give someone that loves that job a job and they get to do what they're really good at, and it frees you
mhm.
up to do the things that you're best at.
Yes. Here's a great example of how we see that play out day in and day out with PR by the book is that we have a lot of clients who are entrepreneurs and they write a book as a calling card for their
Mhm.
company to build up their business. And they hire a PR by the book to promote not only that book, but also their company so that they are getting that's marketing for them. They're getting more leads coming to them. Therefore, they're building up their business. So they're investing in publicity to promote their book and therefore their company and their brand. And then they don't have to spend that time out there trying to push their book or, thinking of different marketing endeavors to build up their business because they've hired a company that's our expertise. That's what we've been doing for 23 years. So that is actually how we see it playing out on this side of the fence too. I'm obviously on both sides of the fence because I am hiring people within PR by the book to do certain roles, and my husband and I are sometimes making those decisions together of, okay, now it's time to bring on this resource. But yeah, we we're also the vendor, so to speak, for women entrepreneurs who are writing books and going down that path to build their own business.
Absolutely love that. So, what advice would you have for women that are just starting to build their financial independence, especially if they've relied on somebody else in the past?
Hmm. I would say there is no substitution for hard work. It's you sometimes just have to dig your heels in and get things done. There might be days where you've got a calendar loaded up with lots of obligations and you're starting your day thinking, gosh, I've got so much on my plate today. But we have to do that hard work. We have to do the parts of our job that are maybe not the most fun part. But oh, you know what? I love this kind of mind hack that I would love to share as it relates to this topic. So we have a former client. Her name is Dana Steele. She has written a couple of books and became a friend. And I subscribed to her newsletter. And several years ago, I mean, let's say this has maybe been 10 years ago, she had some advice, and really worked a lot with women, young women entrepreneurs. And her advice was start your day doing the tasks that bring in the money. And that has stuck with me for a decade. And I try to remember that because Josette, I have sometimes an inbox just growing and growing and growing throughout the day. And I might have, and I'm somebody who likes to keep an organized inbox. And if it goes over 50, I'm probably going to sit there until I can get it down below 50. And so I lead with that a lot of days. If I've got, let's say I've got 50 emails sitting in my inbox, and I think, where do I need to begin? Sometimes it's not at the top. Sometimes it's, what emails do I need to respond to that are bringing money into the company? And that is a really good North Star for me in my role that, hey, I might have a lot of other things I want to get done in the first 2 hours of my day, but why not go ahead and handle those pieces that are related to, building the business, building wealth, building financial independence, and get those things done first. And yeah, maybe not be the most fun part of your job, but it's important and it's a way to organize your time too and to get yourself motivated to get those things done. And then and also, we do it is there's a ton of data out there that shows how we utilize our energy throughout the day. Some people might be most on top of their game between, 10 and 1, so to speak. And then some people, it might be 2 to 5. They're at the top of their game and energy. And so we all have our flows of productivity throughout the day. And I think that's important to pay attention to as well. When are you most effective? I have a morning routine that I started a couple of years ago, and I actually look forward to it. Each morning, it helps get me out of bed. After I get ready for the day, I get my cup of coffee, and I have a specific chair that I sit in that looks out on the front lawn. So there's sunshine coming in, there's natural light. I have some nice twinkly lights set up in that room. And I spend anywhere from an hour to 2 hours in that spot. And I'm doing things like I have a book that sits next to me that's called Morning Fuel. And it's written by Rebecca Galley. And it's a one page thought for the day. She's a fantastic writer. And so she'll talk about a topic that's just one page. So it only takes a few minutes to read it. And it's a great reflection. So I do that. I'll read the morning news on my phone. I've got a couple of news aggregates that I like. One is called The Skim and one is called The Flyover. So I'll read those to get up on news of the day. It's important as a publicist. And then I'll just take care of a few things that I can do on my phone, maybe respond to some text. But it is a very relaxed way to ease myself into the day. I used to think, oh, I got to get my cup of coffee and I got to go sit in front of my computer. And I'm going to be there for the next 10 hours, basically. And and I don't do that anymore. I ease myself in and I have that routine. And I feel like I'm so much more effective because then by the time I do get to my computer and I am there consistently and working hard throughout the day, that's when I'm ready to be more productive. So I think that's important. Get a routine and get something that you feel kind of feeds your soul a little bit, that you can start your day off. So for some people, it might be exercise. That's not for me. I like to do exercise for my lunch break because it gets me away from my computer for an hour and I can, not be tied to a screen for an hour in the middle of the day. So that works for me. I like that. It's important to me. My fitness is important. Um, but not to start my day, but I know a lot of people who do. That's how they want to start their day. And so it's very personalized, it's very individualized, but I'm a huge advocate of finding a schedule that works for you and your productivity.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, my morning routine is I do some journaling and I also do my yoga
Mm.
three mornings a week. So um, I tend to put my exercise in the morning because somehow I don't seem to get to it if I don't do
Yeah,
that. Though
yeah.
I have made a point of my husband and I go for a walk after dinner every night. So
Oh, that's good. That's a really good
that's
routine.
how we unwind
Hmm.
at the end of every day. And that is, I just so look forward to that.
I love that. There have been times in my life where I've tried to get into that routine because I think it's just such a healthy routine to get into. It's good for your digestion. It's good to connect with your partner. It's a great way to wind down the day. So there's just so many reasons why that's a healthy routine, and maybe one day I'll get that going on a regular basis.
And are you of the opinion that women should always have some money of their own? Why or why not?
Well, I think that there are benefits to that. I mean, my husband and I have been married over 25 years and we have our finances together, and that works for us. I also have come across situations with other people where it's been of value for them to have, their own accounts, and it's been important for those people. I'm thinking of two people in my personal life who have had those situations. But I think it's just whatever somebody feels the most comfortable with. Um, Personally, I'm very, very, very thankful that my husband handles all of the finances for our family and our business. It's not something that I would enjoy spending time on. And so we have a really good system worked out with that. And so I think it's just it's very individualized, what somebody feels comfortable with. And I do think that it's important that we feel like we have enough financial independence to do things that we need to spend money on to revitalize ourselves. That could be once a year, you go on an overnight trip to a wellness resort and spend that time alone. Um, I can tell you, as a travel writer, realized that in November of 2023 was the first time I ever took a trip all by myself to fill my cup back up. And it was such a rejuvenating trip. It was 5 days, 4 nights at a health resort. And I focused, I had had a really, really challenging work year that year. A lot of hiring and training and some turnover. And I was just really wrung out at the end of that year, and my birthday's in November. And so I had the opportunity to go and do this. And I thought, why have I waited this long to have experiences like this? Because it's important. And so, yes, I'm a travel writer, and so I get those opportunities more readily than somebody else would. But when it comes to having your own, financial independence, I think women should be able to spend money on themselves to fill their cup back up in whatever way it is for them. It might not be travel, it might be um, retail therapy, it might be just, having a membership for a massage once a month. It might be making a point to go out with your girlfriends once a month and not worry about how much you're spending on dinner and a few glasses of wine or whatever. It's whatever fills your cup back up because we do end up doing so much for our families and for our communities and for our businesses and if we're ignoring ourselves and what we need to replenish, then that's not going to be good for anyone.
And that's such a good point, is that regardless of whether you and your partner decide to have uh, everything joint or whether you have separate accounts and a joint account or however you mix and match the accounts, that women really should also be sure that they have money that they set aside for, like you say, self-care.
Hmm.
Because if you're not feeling your best, no one else around you is going to be feeling their best either. So
Right.
it really
Hmm.
is something that you need to focus on. So
Hmm.
if you had one message to give to women listening today about owning their own independence, what would it be?
Wow. I would say that it would have to do with having the confidence to get done what they want to get done. And when they walk into a room, feeling the confidence that they're meant to be there, their voice is valuable, that they have something to contribute that's important. And I think confidence is so important in all aspects of our lives. One of my least favorite terms is imposter syndrome. I don't like that term because I feel like we all have value to contribute, and that could be in our businesses, that could be in a social situation, that could be volunteering. So that would be my advice. I see the difference in women and how they show up. And um, we worked on a book a few years ago that used the term swagger sense. Jennifer Sukalo is the author of that book, and I was just recently reflecting on how important it is, especially for women, to feel um, that swagger in their lives and that confidence. And it doesn't have to, what she talks about is that that confidence doesn't have to be somebody being extroverted. You can be an introverted person and have so much confidence in who you are, and when you walk into a room or you walk into a Zoom call and and really own that and feel your value. And I think that's really important for females.
So thank you so much for joining us today, and a huge thank you to Marika Flatt for sharing her wisdom and energy with us. If you found value in this conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the Empowered Money Girl with your friends. The more we spread these stories, the more women we can empower to live boldly, both financially and in every part of life. Until next time, keep thriving, and remember, your journey to empowerment starts with you.